Yo, and welcome into week 8 of Pregaming the SEC. Jacob Hester, Chris Doring back with you for another week. We appreciate you tuning in, and we don't really care how you're taking us in. We're just glad to have you here with us as we pregame this week, of course, in the SEC. And CD, we're starting to figure out what is what, who is who, and really get into the nitty gritty of what it's going to look like. We think so in the SEC East, the SEC West. Some teams are kind of separating themselves as we get here in week number 8.
Yeah, I thought that's what week 7 was all about, really,
Yeah.
was separation, particularly in the Eastern Division. Some big games within that side of the conference. And to see Florida go on the road and get a win, and to see Missouri go on the road and get a win, separating themselves from Kentucky and South Carolina, respectively, and keeping their hopes alive. I mean, let's be honest, Florida and Missouri still basically control their own fate going forward.
Yeah.
With Georgia left on each of their schedules and having the opportunity to play one another. It definitely provides a little bit more clarity as to, who really has a chance to get to Atlanta in December.
Full disclosure, did we think that in week number 8, as we head into this week, that the SEC East would kind of be in question? It's not, fully in question because Georgia obviously is still there at the top of the standings. But did you think we'd be going into this week and still wondering, okay, Missouri, Tennessee, maybe they can pull off the massive upset and get to Atlanta?
Well, it makes sense if we think about it. I don't know that we've really projected it out that far, but with the schedule, Georgia was kind of lit up nationally about how easy their schedule was in the first half. You look down the stretch, they're on a bye week coming up this week, but have to take on Florida. They got to take on Ole Miss. They play Missouri. They got to go to Tennessee. So really the biggest games on their schedule remain, and it doesn't look quite as manageable as it once did.
No, it does not, because the narrative of the offseason was, well, when they get to Tennessee, when they get to November, they get to Tennessee in Neyland, that's going to be the one. It's like, well, actually, like you take a look at what they have before, and now all of those games, Florida's not ranked, but they're right there on the, the edge of being ranked. And obviously we know that series and how that game can go, but like now these teams are ranked. Now you've got Missouri playing at a high level.
Brock Bowers being out as well adds some intrigue to that story too.
Without question, like the people that are, and people I respect that are hand waving that injury off, like, oh, it's Georgia, they've got dudes. They do have dudes. They don't have another unicorn.
Yeah.
Like Brock Bowers is special. He changes the game. He changes it with the ball, without the ball, when they're running the ball. Everything that Georgia wants to do offensively, I would almost say runs through him, because if I'm a defensive coordinator, well, I go into every single Monday morning meeting when I'm playing Jordan and say, well, let me circle him. This guy can't beat us. And now you're without him. Delp's a good player. He ain't Brock Bowers.
No. The great part about it, too, you get Ladd McConkey back, hopefully at 100%. He's going to be a guy that'll have to pick up some of the slack. He's been a focal point of that offense. And I think I mentioned it to you earlier in the week on one of the other shows we did together. But the fact that he was more of the third down target for this Georgia offense last year than Brock Bowers was indicates what they think about him. But to your point, how much of that was because the attention of the defense was on Brock Bowers of saying, hey, I'm not going to let this guy beat us. Somebody else is going to have it. So, who are the other folks that step up? I think that'll be interesting to see what they work on during the bye week. If you had to lose if you had to lose Brock, probably the best time to do it was before the bye week, to give yourself an opportunity to acclimate, to see what life looks like without him. But my hope is this: he comes back healthy, Hester, whenever that is, and that we haven't seen the last of him in a Georgia uniform, because this guy's been so fun to watch. Hopefully he can return to 100% and get a chance to play in some meaningful games down the stretch for them.
Yeah, and I know some people are like, oh, good. No, Brock Bowers is out. Look, this is a special player that does everything the right way. It's hard for me not to want to see him yet again finish his college career on the path that he has really had consistently throughout his career. Like, I want this guy to do exactly what he's been doing.
I want your opinion on this, because I think you and I are a lot alike in so many different ways. But I've heard, Gator fans say, oh, that's good, man, Brock Bowers is going to be out. I'm like, as a Florida guy, I want him to be out on the field. If we're going to beat Georgia, I want to beat the best version of Georgia. I want to get 100% of what they got, instead of having to look back and maybe an asterisk that said, oh, they were missing their best player. Like, I know there's no way he's going to be back for this ball game, but a competitor wants to see the best of their opponent when they get a chance to line up across from them.
Yeah, you do. I mean, just the competitor in us, like every time we played a game, we wanted the best guys to be in there. You want to be able to say, this was my individual matchup, and we went out there and we won because we took care of player A, B, or C, whatever it is. And so, yeah, I mean, Florida would be happy, dude. Let's don't get it twisted. They'd be thrilled that they beat the Georgia Bulldogs just because of who Georgia is and what they've become in college football, which is the standard of college football. But you always want the best to play. So we'll keep up with that. You're right. Like, you have at least this week. That's one of the 4 to 6 weeks that Brock Bowers won't be in there. But still, like, with the schedule they have coming up, like the Mizzou game, and that's a team that we'll talk about here today. That's a very interesting game with Brock Bowers. Certainly it is without him. All right, let's go ahead and get into Hold My Beer. It's a segment we do to kick off every single pre-gaming the SEC. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, right? Sometimes we kind of change it up on Hold My Beer. I'm going to go, I think this is the first time this year, maybe. If it's not the first, maybe the second time. My Hold My Beer is kind of a negative Hold My Beer. We talked about LSU and Auburn, right? Auburn 121st in passing offense, LSU 121st in pass defense. Which bad was going to win out, right? And so I'm saying this week that LSU's bad pass defense says, hold my beer. We're not the worst. The Auburn passing attack is actually the worst, because you look at what they did or didn't do. 15 of 27. They only throw for 154 yards. That's between two quarterbacks. Only one score, no real dynamic plays against an LSU defense, CD, that have been giving up dynamic plays to Arkansas and to Ole Miss and to Mizzou. I mean, they had really Grambling. Like, you can watch that game. I mean, they gave up plays in the passing game to an FCS opponent, but they held Auburn down, because as bad as LSU's pass defense is, hold my beer, Auburn's pass offense is actually worse.
You know what, though? I actually feel like LSU may have turned the corner a little bit defensively. And we've seen this in the past, that 2019 team, and I'm not certainly saying that this team is the same, but I
not
see
on defense
similar.
For sure.
No, but the defense, remember, the defense wasn't that good till the end of the year. Remember, John Rice Plumlee lit them up in Oxford late in the season, and there was some, feeling that the sky was falling in Baton Rouge. But I do feel like if I'm going to be LSU's defense, if I'm Matt House, I'm going to be as aggressive as I can. If I'm going to beat, it's going to be getting beat playing with an aggressive style. So, they only gave up 2 scoring drives in the second half of that ball game against Missouri a couple weeks ago. They only give up 2 scoring drives in this one, 2 or 3 scoring drives if you factor in field goals. But the improvement that I saw leads me to believe that they're tackling a little bit better, and that they're aware of where they're supposed to be on the field a little bit better. And I think that's half the battle. Now, for me, I haven't had a chance to talk about holding my beer in a good way about my alma mater, but this one goes to
Grant
Mertz.
Give it a clap, baby.
It goes to Ricky Pearsall. It goes to that entire Florida team. We're down 10, less than 5 to go. Hold my beer. Have no fear. Here comes Graham Mertz throwing the ball around. Man, what a great performance from him. Over 400 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, only 1 interception. So, I again, this is me being optimistic, but I feel like Florida may have turned the corner a little bit. You shake off some of the road woes of Salt Lake City and Lexington early in the season. You play with some more energy. You have a greater sense of urgency, and you have fight all the way to the end of that ball game. I'm not saying this is a huge win by any means. South Carolina just a 2-win program right now. But I think what it represents and the jumping off point that it could mean for Billy Napier and the rest of his team there in his second season in Gainesville could be something you look back at and feel like maybe that was the turning point.
So you and I on off campus yesterday, we talked about Iowa, right? Going to the Big Ten just real quick, just to use it as a comp. Like, all the things that we say about Iowa, they're true. I understand their offense, but they're 6-1. Yeah. They're winning football games. Mm-hmm. All the things we say about Florida, and I'm not just saying I'm saying everybody in the SEC, you look up, they're 5-2. You know what I'm saying? They're 5-2 with a chance in Jacksonville. If they win that game, they get to 6-2, and they have a win against the standard of college football. For all the Billy Napier jokes, right? What was the name that they were calling him, the Sunbelt Billy or whatever they were calling him earlier in the year? All that crap, all that goes away.
Yeah.
Right. And this is a team that, okay, the losses looked ugly. Well, there's a couple of teams in the SEC where we could say that LSU's losses look ugly, right? That's a close game against Ole Miss, but it's ugly because of how that game played out. The Florida State opener, that's an ugly loss. right? And like there's still teams that are winning games now. Like they're getting into that stretch where they're getting consistent play, whatever it is for those two teams. But Florida, all the jokes, everything you wanted to say, well, you know what? They're 5-2, and they still have a lot to play for.
They do. They got a lot to play for, as we talked about earlier, with their goals still remaining out there, including getting to Atlanta. The schedule, though, is very challenging for the Gators in the second half of the season here, as we talked about the cocktail party coming up in the final weekend of October. You got to go to Missouri in mid to late November, which will be an interesting trip. Got Florida State coming at the end of the season. Really, the LSU trip is upcoming as well.
Can we get you down here? Look, I know you're a big wig. I know you're in the studio. Can we take a week off? Right. Well, hey, we'll pass the hat. We'll get whatever you make on a weekend at the SEC network. Just come up with a cough, act like you're sick. We'll pass the hat again. We'll get the funds and we'll make it worth your while. Like get down to Baton Rouge.
I want to, but I don't know with the way that bet between me and PB has gone the last 4
Eventually it's going to swing your way though.
You would think so. You know, the roulette wheel is eventually going to stop hitting black and come up red one of these days. But I don't know if this is the year. It actually looks like a better matchup than maybe it once did a couple weeks ago. But it's I'm a little bit burned after the 3 touchdown favorite loss to you guys back in 2020, and then the 2 touchdown favorite losing there in Baton Rouge. So I'm gonna have to see it before I believe it, bro.
Yeah, and just a little programming note, we have got former Florida track star, current USA track star Grant Holloway joining us. He's our guest today on Pregaming the SEC.
In the world, bro. The number 1 ranked 110-meter hurdle in the entire world. It's pretty amazing to think about what that means and the fact that we get a chance to talk to him here on this show.
I'm very excited about it, man. You've got obviously big time Olympics coming up, and this is somebody that's firmly going to be looking a lot work to be done. But if I had to count on someone, it's going to be Grant Holloway to get there and then to thrive once he gets there. So very excited for that conversation. Want to throw that in there since we were talking about the Florida Gators. All right, CD. Before we go to last call, I want to remind you, like we always do, about our great partners over at Blue Delta Jeans. BlueDeltaJeans.com is the website. They've got all their incredible fall specials going on right now. So check those out on the website. Nothing feels as good as custom fits. We tell you that every single week, and it stays true all the time. BlueDeltaJeans.com. All right, now it is time to last call. Mine's going to be pretty quick, pretty simple, and it's just a team. A lot of times we use individual performances here in this segment, but my last call for week number 7, Missouri. It's the Missouri Tigers, right? Who was going to handle the defeat better? Was it going to be Kentucky and how they lost on the road to Georgia? Or was it going to be Mizzou in a game which they controlled a lot of against LSU at home? The crowd, right? This big crowd you had in Como, all this energy, all this momentum. You're up 22-7. You lose the game. How were you going to bounce back? Well, they bounced back in a big way on the road in Lexington, and Missouri is the real deal Holyfield. They are a team that's going to have a lot to say here down the stretch, and I don't care who they are on the schedule. Missouri's going to have a chance, and I realize who they have left in every single game they're in. This offense is one of the best offenses in the country. They truly are. Like Brady Cook, I was talking with former LSU quarterback Matt Flynn. We were watching tape earlier today, and we were just watching some Mizzou tape. And I'm like, hey, watch this Brady Cook guy, man. And just blown away with how he goes through his progressions. It's not just Luther Burden. It is 3 receivers. He'll spread the ball out. Obviously, you've got a really good running game as well. It's a fun offense to watch. My last call is the performance in week number 7 of the Missouri Tigers.
I'm going to stay in the East with another big win, this one at home, and talk of Neyland Stadium being, just like all the other stadiums. Gary Danielson was kind of taken out of context, but the Tennessee fans used that as a battle cry and went out there and created a great home field advantage. The defense, though, to me, the defense is what has been legitimized in my book. They were the Achilles heel of the last couple of years, Tennessee teams, but they are no longer a laughing stock. That front 7 is legit. We talk all the time about Pierce and Beasley, but you look on the interior there with Bryson Eason and Amari Thomas. Those guys have been difference makers up front, and maybe one of the most impressive jobs of complementary football the punt that's down at the 1 yard line, the defensive stand where the line of scrimmage dominates,
Yeah.
the forcing of the punt and the return for the touchdown. That's how it's done. And certainly Tennessee doesn't have the explosiveness on offense that they've had in the recent years, but they damn sure have a really good defense, and celebrate those guys for getting a big home win against the Aggies, man. Great job by the Vols.
Yeah, they've got the defense, and they also have the running game. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a very, very stingy Texas A&M run front, and they just ran the football at will. I mean,
That was the
Tennessee
number
will
one
do that.
rushing defense in the conference,
Well,
and they ran for 232 on them.
Hey, you and I said it yesterday. If you have the number one rushing defense in the conference, the next week's not going to go great for you.
Yeah.
Missouri,
Who is number one right now? Do we know?
LSU. I don't even want to look it up because I'm afraid who it is. I'm afraid that we'll put some jinx on them. Let's don't even look that stat up, okay? Because in A&M, by the way, their defensive front is really, really good.
Legit.
They'll be back, but it's just Tennessee's run game, because Josh Heupel gets thrown into the kind of air raid principles, spread them out. We're going to throw the football, and they do that. Obviously, with Hendon Hooker last year, they were so good at it. The thing that people lose sight of is their offense gives them the ability to run everything out of 11 personnel. Their tight ends, man, they work hard. So all the gap scheme runs that sometimes you just don't assume that team's going to, they'll run power, they'll run counter, inside, outside zone, stretch lead. All of that's available in the run game. And that's what, to me, makes it so dynamic, is the fact that it can kind of come from anywhere.
Yeah, they definitely were impressive in terms of the level of physicality on the line of scrimmage. And really, if you'd have told me that Joe Milton completed half of his passes and only threw for 100 yards, I would have said that the Vols lost by double digits.
Question.
But the run game, the way that they were able to handle the one-on-one blocks up front and really move a great front seven in Texas A&M's is impressive. And I think it speaks to how this team is doing things a little differently than they've been able to do them in the years past, but still winning ball games.
How about this quote before we move on from Tennessee and last call? So Alabama ranks dead last in the SEC with 31 sacks allowed. That's 130th in the country. Tennessee ranks third in the SEC with 24 sacks. That's best for fifth in the country. And they asked Coach Nick Saban, are you concerned about Tennessee and how they get after the quarterback? And his answer was simply, hell yeah. And he should be, because Tennessee in that front, man, they will get after you. It's a different style of team than it was a year ago.
Definitely is a different style, and it presents some unique challenges for Alabama. Can't wait to get into talking a little bit more of that as we preview the upcoming games in Week 8.
All right, before we get to our guest, and we are very excited for that guest, Grant Holloway, I want to tell you about our friends over at Richards Honda. Go check them out at richardshonda.com. No matter what you're looking for, they have got you covered. If you need that minivan gang, get that Odyssey. If you need that truck, get the Ridgeline. They've got the HRV, the Passport, the CRV, the Pilot, so many different midsize SUVs to choose from. They got the sedans, the hybrids as well. So many vehicles, so many options, incredible service, and that's why Richards Honda is home of the warm and fuzzy feeling. richardshonda.com, again, is that website. All right, we are, again, just incredibly excited for our guest coming up here. He is someone who has already won an Olympic medal. He is going for gold. He is the world champion in 2019, 2022, 2023. And that's just, right, that's just that portion of it, because you go to the indoor, he's won 2022 there as well. Inside, outside, interior, exterior, CD, it does not matter for our next guest. He is the man, the myth, the legend. Again, going for gold yet again, going to get there in the Olympics this time. Mr. Grant Holloway is our guest, former Florida Gator track star. All right, we are very excited to welcome our guest here to Pregaming the SEC this week. It is definitely the fastest guest we've ever had here on the program. That is track star Grant Holloway, who joins us now, of course, former Gator as well. Grant, man, we appreciate your time. How you doing?
Hey, man, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Grant's
really
my guy.
Anticipating this one.
Yeah, well, Grant and I was going to say, we've been talking about this for a while. It seems like the only time I ever see you, bro, is in the airport. You and I cross the path when we're on a flight here or there. But what's next up on the schedule for you?
Hey, man, right now I'm enjoying my off season. This past August, I was able to get my fourth world title, third one in a row. So right now I'm just enjoying the fruits of my labor. I'm doing fundraisers. I'm going out with friends. I'm hanging out with family. Like I'm doing exactly what I wish I could be doing in my when I want to be done with the sport. But
Yeah.
I'm doing it now, man.
Well, don't do that anytime soon, man, because you just became, you mentioned August, one of the two people in the history of the world to go back to back to back in the 110-meter hurdles.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how you do it, bro. You're much more mentally tough than us football guys. First and foremost, like practice for you guys sucks. That was like the worst part of us having to train in the off season was doing the track workouts and then making sure you're peaking at the right time. I mean, the consistency that you have, how do you maintain that consistency to be able to accomplish something like that?
It starts with the team. Everything that I do it around my team, right? That's on the track, off the track, treatment, strength and conditioning. I hold my team accountable, and they know at the beginning of the year, I write my goals down. I hand them a slip, basically saying like, this is what we're going to get done. This is what I want to achieve. If I'm not doing, the steps to get there, hold me accountable, pull me aside, tell me to shut up. Like, do you want to be Olympic gold medalist or not? And it starts with my team. Everything we do is consistent around it. Especially like around this off season, my team, they let me be me. They let me go out, have fun. But
Mm-hmm.
as soon as I give them that date, right now the date's November 12th. As soon as I give them that date, they know like, all right, it means business. Let's get on the road. Let's get on the clock. First things first, we got indoor worlds. So I get to go defend my title at indoor worlds. And then obviously the Olympics are in Paris this year. So I get to get a little bit of redemption and make that silver or gold. So it's always something. Always looking forward to it, man.
Grant, so for us, like in the football world, we get done with the NFL season in January, and maybe we take a couple of weeks off and we just don't do much, and we get back going in February. Maybe, hey, some guys even March, although they didn't last maybe too long in the NFL.
Yeah.
When you say off season, though, knowing where your body has to be, like what does that entail? Like how off are you truly?
Right now, it's my motto. Motto I live by within track is I work hard so I can party hard.
Yeah.
Right
Doring
now,
lives by that as well.
That's why we're such good friends, man. Come on, we connect that way.
look, little does everybody know, me and Chris was at Spurrier's, turned that place upside down one time. But right now, I just finished my season September 17th. It's around, but I think today's October 19th or 18th. I'm looking at my phone now. It's the 18th. So really, I took that month. With that, I usually take 2 weeks, do whatever I want, and after
Yeah.
those 2 weeks, let me just start going on a couple of runs. Let me go in the weight room. Let me just do some type of physical activity for an hour a day, so then I can enjoy my night. Let's just give myself, just a catalyst, just to continue, just to work, and then obviously when November comes around, it's back to the grind, back getting healthy, and maybe a glass of wine there, maybe a old fashioned or Manhattan there. But really, when you know how it is when you start that goal, or once you put that that slip or whatever you write down your goal, and however you want to phrase it. Once you get to that point, you're kind of just like, all right, this is why I'm honing in. This is why I'm practicing hard. This is why I'm doing all sorts of things.
You mentioned the indoor season, the outdoor season. It's a busy schedule that you guys have, but everything seems to build up for that once every 4-year competition in the Olympics. And you mentioned kind of the disappointment from the last Olympics and looking to get redemption. What was the feeling like for you after you put so much into that and then having it not turn out the way that you wanted it to?
Yeah, I mean, 2021 was literally my best worst year ever. I was able to go break the indoor world record in Madrid. I was able to go run the second fastest time and be point oh one off the world record outdoors. So, on paper, if you look at that, that's literally the best season anybody could ever have. It was 2021. And then I got to the Olympics and I was able to secure second. So it's kind of like that, kind of like a hot and cold, bittersweet type of moment. So, my goal now is really just when there's a major championship, everybody knows Grant Holloway is going to show up. He's going to be in the final. He's going to be in a lane. Doesn't matter what lane at that point. We all got to run the same race. But I'm gonna be in the final, and just really just trying to just secure my legacy. 2021 really taught me a lot. At that time, I was 23 years old at my first Olympics, so I was very eager just to get there. But at the same time, it was during COVID, so no fans, family wasn't there. We were stuck in the village. Literally, it was either going to the village or to the track. There was no in between, so I didn't really get out. But Paris track, that city has been very, very nice to me. So I'm really looking forward just to get in there. Just this past in July, I was able to go there and run 12:98, another respectable time in the track and field world. So really just looking forward just to getting out there and just really just getting my feet wet.
What's it like for you trying to get back to the Olympics? Because I think a lot of people just assume, okay, well, you did it last time, you'll be back there again, right? It's not like you're under this 4-year contract where it's just like, okay, I know I'm going to be there regardless. Like you still have to get there. Like there's a point, you still have to have the times, you still got to show up, you still have to perform. And so what's that like knowing that that is the ultimate goal to get back to that point, but knowing you still have a lot of hard work in front of you to get there?
Yeah, I mean, literally, I say it lightly, but your dreams can really be crushed at the U.S. trials. You know, you
Yeah.
at the U.S. trials, you have to place top three. It doesn't matter if you're sick. It doesn't matter if you're hurt. You have to show up on that day. And I think our day is actually July. No, yeah, July 29th, I want to say, is our day. So literally on July 29th, you have to be ready to compete. You have to be ready to run.
Yeah.
If you get fourth, hey, pat you on the back, send you on your way. You're not going to the Olympics. So, you know, the main goal is obviously the win, but the big goal is place top three. You know, if you go in there with the mindset like, oh, let me just try to get third, let me muscle out third. Now you wonder why you're fourth or fifth. If
Yeah.
you go out there with the mindset, let me just go out there and win, dominate on this day, reevaluate, and then when the Olympics come, you reevaluate again.
How recognizable are you? Like when you walk around, like, you know, amongst Gator fans now, I still got a little recognition, but like, you know, the TV may have relit that, but like normally not all that recognizable. You being on the world stage, are you more recognizable when you're in an international city than you are in the United States in some cases?
So it's twofold. Like when I'm here in Gainesville, it's I'm famous enough that I get things that I need for free or whatever, but not so famous that people don't bother me.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I go overseas, they know me as an athlete. So regardless if it's like, oh, let me do the autograph or oh, Grant, thank you so much for coming to our track meet. Here's a vintage bottle of wine. It's small things like that, but
Mm-hmm.
not nearly as on the level of in America, we're always competing against, the deals. So I'm in competition with Tom Brady, Floyd Mayweather, Tiger Woods, Patrick Mahomes, LeBron James. The list goes on and on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm at the bottom of the totem pole for track. With everybody. Well, excuse me, I'm at the bottom of the totem pole because I'm a track athlete, but at the top of the totem pole because I run track. So
Yeah.
it's always twofold. But the way it works usually is just it helps to be recognized, especially in our sport, because our sport doesn't get so much recognition. We'll get some recognition because it's the Olympics, and obviously everybody thinks our track and field is only every 4 years, but they don't understand that we have world championships, Diamond League, like we have other meets to try to keep that up. But it's gonna be really, really big this year, obviously, because of the Olympics. So, the main thing is you sign those deals, you go to these places, you do what you got to do. You get the deals with Comcast, Delta, all these Olympic sponsors, so you get on the TV, and that's how you get your recognition.
All right, I want to ask you this. Obviously, you are a track athlete, but there's a bio that makes it seem like you almost became a football player. It says you chose to compete for Florida in the hurdles rather than UGA in football. With it being Florida and Georgia week coming up, we got to hear that story.
Well, I mean, that is very true. At the time, Mark Richt recruited me. Brian McClendon, still the wide receiver coach at UGA, still great friends with him to this day. But they really wanted me. Went on my official visit, told them I was like, "Yo, I'm in. Just give me some time. I want to sign on my birthday." Boom, 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 boom. Cool. That was around about October. As we all know, there was that one point where Mark Richt had got fired. Brian McClendon became the intern coach. So all that turmoil was when I was committed.
Mm-hmm.
So after Mark Richt left, I got on the phone with Coach McClendon and just told him, like, look, it's too much going on. I don't know. I'm not the biggest team player. I'll admit that right now. I'm not the biggest team player. So I just told him, I was like, yo, I'm just going to go to Georgia. I'm going to go to Florida, call Coach Mike Holloway up. We started talking. At the time, Jim McElwain was the coach. I had told him I wanted to play both ways. Jim kind of spoiled that out for me, and he was kind of saying, like, you're not really Florida material for football. We'll have you walk on. My pride saying, like, yo, I'm not walking on no team. Like, I could just easily go to track and field, do what I want to do. So I went to track and field. obviously Jim McElwain. Let me just say the apple don't fall too far from the tree. So after all that was done, my legacy here at the University of Florida panned out to be a track and field athlete.
I mean, it's not like we don't have a history of that. John Capel back in the day, and Jeff Dimps.
There you go.
Jeff
Dimps was a stud,
right?
Straight stud.
So I feel like we missed out, particularly on those teams. They weren't exactly killing it at that time. Could have definitely used some of that speed on the outside, man.
All we needed is just a little bit of speed. We can always use a little bit of speed.
That's right. Hey, so speaking of that, you mentioned Paris and the comfort there on that track. Like there's certain stadiums I think has places we've gone where we feel more comfortable, that we've been able to have bigger games. Is there a favorite place that you have, whether it be because of the track or the stadium or the environment, that you like going and performing in front of?
Honestly, it's two tracks. As soon as you asked me that question, two tracks lit up on my mind. Every year since I turned pro, I've been going to this indoor track meet in Liévin, France, probably about 2 hours from Paris. I go there every year. Excuse me. I go there every year, and I have the performances of my life. It's usually like my second or third meet of the season, and I always go there and run fast. And then my favorite outdoor track so far, honestly, this past World Championships in Budapest, that really, stole my heart. To go there and win the third one in a row, no, other than Greg Foster, he just passed away. So it like, just certain things that are a little bit sentimental to me, and to go to those tracks and have fun, and really just you see those type of things and you see it happen, and it's like, man, like I can come here every year. But definitely that track in Liévin, the meet director loves me. The hospitality is great, and like I said, I look forward to going to that track meet every year.
All right, before we get I want to talk about Florida Georgia stuff coming up here, but rivalries in track. Do you have a rival? Is there another country? Is a specific athlete? I mean,
with that laugh, he certainly has one in mind.
Well, I just rewatched the Budapest thing back in August, and watching Parchment. I know Parchment got you in the Olympics, and trying to close on you there. Is he one, or is there another guy?
So that you look at? There, right now, Hansel Parchment, at the age of, I think he's 33 or 34, he's playing some of the best, not playing, he's running some of the best track and field ever. I give him like the little Al Horford title. He's the old man playing the best game that he can do. Hansel Parchment is definitely up there. If you go within the U.S., Daniel Roberts, I've been running against him while he was at Kentucky. I was at University of Florida. And obviously, we're coming up in the pro ranks, and we're still running against each other. So definitely between those two, you got somebody who is in the country, and then someone out the country. I think those two are definitely are always people that you got to keep your eye out for. You got to make sure you're on your A game when you run against them. But then also you got these up and new coming young Thundercats that I like to call them. You got Rashid Broadbell, and also in Jamaica, you have Sasha Zoya, another one coming from France. You have Martinez in Spain. Like, you have all these people that can always run their best race, and you always got to look out for, you got to look out for them. So my biggest thing is when I run against them is be on the – so listen, I'm going to try to put it in a little bit of football terms for everybody. My thing for them is to be in the offensive mode. If I'm in offense and I'm attacking and I'm driving and doing everything that I have to do, I'm good. As soon as I get in defensive mode because they're next to me or they're having a race of their life, that's when I'm in panic mode. So my biggest thing is if I stay in offense, I can have races like I did in Budapest. I can have races like I did in Oregon, and I can shock the world. But as soon as I get in defensive mode, it's not good.
I figure being on offense, I mean, you are on offense literally because you're the fastest out of the blocks every time. I mean, what's the key to getting a good start like that out of the blocks?
I mean, that's just a lot of reaction drills at the track. It's just like anything else for like an offensive lineman. As soon as the ball is hiked, they gotta get going, or they're gonna get beat up the ball. So a lot of reaction drills for me. The biggest thing is just really when I'm getting going, I'm so quick, I'm so fast over the hurdles. So I just gotta try to stay composed within myself. I gotta make sure I take care of this 50. I take 51 steps in the whole race. I gotta make sure I take care of all 51 steps. If I mess up on one step, then it's gonna mess up the next one, and it's a whole huge domino effect. That's what we don't want.
It sounds like that the 40, Hess, right? When nowadays when guys are training for the 40, what's your fastest 40 that you've ever run?
4.22 at the age of 17.
Wow.
Yeah, I
So
ran 30
2015.
yards in 4.22 one time.
Look, I've been trying. Chris saw me out there at the pro
Yeah.
day last year. I'm trying to get out there and run the 40 every single year, and everybody's like, "No, Grant, you can't do it. No, Grant, this is for the football team. No, Grant, da 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 da." I'm like, "Yo, we're making all these excuses. I just want to add some flair, some spice to the guys. Like, who doesn't want to come watch somebody run 4.2 in the 40?
Yeah.
Like right now, give me some cleats. I'll go
Yeah.
out there and burn 4.2. That's easy for me. Like,
I
let's
mean,
just go out
and
there
who
and have some fun.
knows? Yeah, who knows? I mean,
I won't.
Grayson from LSU never played football at LSU, and he was in the NFL. He was a track guy at LSU because he went out there to pro day and ran a fast time.
I told Coach Napier, I told Mike, one of the directors of ops, I told Chris last year in front of Steve
Yeah.
Smith. I said, "Yo, Agent 89, if y'all give me some cleats right now, I will go out there and burn this whole place apart." Oh, get Grant some cleats. Oh no, we can't. He's not part of the manifesto. Well, where's the manifesto? He has it. Okay, well, he has it. Then let me sign myself up. No, we can't do that. It's just a whole bunch of he said, she said BS.
Yeah.
I'm just like, all right, guys, whatever.
We got to get you on there
Yeah,
next
I'm
year.
about to say we got to get him on the field. Hey, CD, talk to your boy. Talk to your boys. I mean, look, they got 97 people wearing blue polos in that Gator team picture. They got more assistant coaches than anything I've ever seen. One of them has the docket that he's got to go over there and just sign his waiver so he can go run a 40.
Oh my God, that's all I want to do. I don't want to do no shuttle. I don't want to do no broad jump. Let me just go out there, run a 40, go to practice like nothing happened.
Do you get bored? Like, would you ever, when you accomplish everything you want to accomplish, say, "Hey, I'm going to go play football now"? Would you ever do that?
No.
No.
My football career is done, man.
Done.
I wouldn't last out there. I'll be honest. Like, Devin Allen is the big one right now. He plays for Philadelphia Eagles. He just returned one of the kicks for them.
Yeah.
I think they were playing. I don't remember who they were playing, but they gave him a nice little shout out. Olympic hurler, returning kicks. I see what he's going through, and the wide receiver room right now, and all the teams, they're just stacked. And I have faith in myself, but you know how like some people be like, you gotta stay in your lane, literally stay in your lane. I gotta stay in my lane.
Well, hey, that's for people that aren't track stars. That's for people that had a moment in track, but it didn't work out for them, and then they went to football. Like there's a big difference in had a moment in track and went to the Olympics, won a medal, and striving to continue on with their track career. Big difference.
I'm glad everybody has faith in me, but I need to have some faith in myself before I go out there and make that decision.
All right, would you go full Willie Galt, Herschel Walker, and get bobsled winter Olympic competition going?
See, I would honestly, like, yes, I would, but then at the same time, it's like I want to sit my ass down. Honestly, once I'm done, like my goal, honestly, is when I'm done, I want to go play golf, drink a couple cold ones on the course, go pick up my son or my daughter or whenever that time comes for me, and go home. Like my athletic career, it can be done. Like I feel like I've done everything I wanted to, from the middle school ranks, high school, college, pros, international. Like I feel like I've done it all, and now I'm just like, all right, you guys got it. The old man's gonna go sit down somewhere.
So is it hard for you, like when you go to all these great international cities, to not want to like enjoy all of the temptation outside of what your training and focus is? Like in the offseason, did you go anywhere? What's the best vacation you went to this offseason?
This offseason, I went to Napa Valley with some of my great friends,
and
I enjoyed it like to the T. Sunglasses on. When the sunglasses are on, you know what that means. But like literally, like my thing is I like I said before, I work hard so I could party hard. So like after some meets, I might slip out with some of the other guys. I'm not gonna sit here and say, "Oh, I'm the cleanest whistle in the box." But like honestly, like you work hard and you do all these things. You can't not go celebrate. So my thing is like I said, I do it all in moderation. Like when it's time, it's always a time and place for everything.
All right, hey, let's get to the Florida-Georgia matchup coming up. It is a game in which CD knows all too well. It's one of the best scenes in college football. You got the 50-50 crowd. You got the split right there down the middle. You got Georgia, number one team in the country, going for their third national championship. How are we feeling? What's the vibe heading into that matchup?
I'm always through and through a Gator. I watched the Kentucky game, very disappointed. I watched the Utah game, very disappointed. But there's something about Florida, Georgia, like everybody says. When it's a rivalry week, everybody plays different. Prime example, Colorado versus Colorado State.
Yep.
We thought that game was going to be a blowout, and it looked very, very good, like through and through. I was watching that game on the West Coast at night, and I'm like, I need to go to bed, but this game is really good. But I'm always gonna pull for the Gators. I am a realistic person, but at the end of the day, I cannot go against that blue and orange.
Are you friends with any of the guys on the team currently?
I mean, Chris. If you were old head, I'm becoming an old head. I don't know nobody. I have no.
It happens quick, doesn't it? I mean,
I'm removed. Like my 4 years at college, you get 4 years in college, and then you get 4 years after college. I'm already removed. I'm already out.
Yeah. I just want to know, like, that what we saw against South Carolina, how much of that is who they really are? How much can you trust that what you saw in terms of their willingness to throw the ball down the field, the plays that guys were making, that's who they're going to be, and not be the ones that are committing the turnovers and the penalties and the things that have killed them on those road games you mentioned.
So I played a lick of high school ball. You guys definitely played. So correct me if I'm wrong, and excuse my ignorance for anybody listening. But we have a great quarterback in my eyes. I feel like Graham Mertz is going to get the job done, and I feel like we have. This is really going to be ignorant for everybody listening. I feel like we have the best receiver in college football with Ricky Pearsall, with just his dynamic, his availability to catch the ball, run the routes across the middle, and even if he has to go deep. I think if we get those two clicking and our defense is able to hold them to field goals, maybe a couple touchdowns, I think we can be able to compete. But I think with not Travis Etienne, what's his brother's name?
Trevor.
With Trevor Etienne, I feel like he's another top dog with us. So if we can get the ball to our playmakers, maybe get them to touch the ball 11 to 15 times, regardless, with his catchings or receptions, or even run the ball, I think we can try to, dilate some damage towards the defense, and we can try to put some points up on the board. But obviously, like we always said, defense wins championships. So I think it's going to come down to our defense. We have to be able to stop them, and at minimal, let them just only get field goals.
Hey, no Brock Bowers. That's obviously going to be very beneficial for the Florida Gators. I mean, that guy's a unicorn out there playing tight end. And so that's one weapon you don't have to worry about. Before we let you go, have you ever been to the Florida-Georgia game in Jacksonville?
Yep. Yeah, I went after my first world title in 2019, and no, we didn't win that one. No, we didn't win that one. I was about to say, I think we won that one. We didn't win that one.
Yeah, we pulled off the one with Kyle Trask as starting that we dominated.
Was that 18, CD?
No, that was 19. That was
19.
Right.
No,
that was
yeah.
19.
You were there for that one?
Yeah, because 19,
19
Kyle Trask was dealing.
Yeah, with Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, was that 19 or 20? Because that's the year we went to the SEC championship.
Right.
Look, I don't know. I just know Kyle Trask was out there.
No, you're right. It's 20. It's 20. Sorry,
been 20. We hadn't had a ton of them, but so I got three things I want to bring up before we let you go. First and foremost, this is not the first time on Pregaming the SEC that Grant Holloway's name has come up. Ben Shelton was on here and credited you with the celebration that he does. Man, did you know that? I mean, did he tell you that he got that from you?
So it all started 2019 when I won my first national title, or my last national title. And at the time, I was in limbo with shoe contracts. They were like, well, Grant Holloway hasn't really done this, blah, 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 blah. We don't think he's worth X, Y, and Z. So at that time, that was what the phone call was about. I was like, yo, if you got any other questions, you just give me a call and I can give you my number before I change it because the IRS is going to come find me. And then afterwards, Ben, fast forward, I was doing it. I've been doing it. World scene, everybody knows about it. And then Ben does it while he's, I think, U.S. Open, right?
Yeah.
At the U.S. Open. And then he gets in the press conference. He's sitting down. Everybody's like, well, what's the phone call? And he said that. And when I tell you my phone went crazy, it went crazy. You would have thought I was at the U.S. Open. So Ben is a great kid. We actually just finished hanging out maybe about 2 weeks ago before he left for Tokyo. And he's wheeling and dealing right now. Yeah. So I'm happy for him. I'm happy for little bro.
All right. Second thing I want to ask you about the nickname Flamingo, man. Tell us the origin of that story, please.
So at the time when I first was coming up, 2012, 14 years old, haven't hit puberty, no adolescence, blah blah blah. I'm straight arms, and my torso is basically where my belly button is, and I just was just straight legs.
Mm-hmm.
So at the time, my coach, my high jump coach, Coach Sauer, Michael Sauer, Grassville High School, he said, "Yo, you got legs of flamingo," and just stuck with me the whole time. So Flamingo, Wonder Boy are the two that they interchange out, and Wonder Boy started just because I got to about my junior senior year playing football, running track, just dominating just the whole 757 area. And one of my best friends, Vince Slow, he was like, "Yeah, you're gonna do wonders." So I'm just gonna call you Wonder Boy. And when their name blows up, just give me a little bit of credit, and I'll go about my business.
Yeah. Well, I was watching the intros to the 110-meter hurdles at the World Championships in Budapest, and you didn't really get it up much before the race. So is that always how you come out, or are you tempted to be a little more hype?
I'm tempted to be a little bit more hype, but that race was strictly business.
Mm-hmm.
With everything going on, they had me projected to get third. It was just a lot of talk.
Yeah.
So at that point, you know how it is when you hear a little bit of backlash towards your name. You're like, all right, I'm gonna go in here strictly business. I'm not gonna talk. I'm not gonna talk to no media before or after I run. I'm only gonna talk to them after I prove all you guys wrong. So I came out. I was locked in, and you know how you have that feeling before the play is even called. You're like, oh, this is a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
And before I even got in the blocks, I was like, look, as long as you don't false start, Grant, you got it.
Yeah.
So the gun went off, and like literally, I rewatched the race, and my surge just when I just started just pulling away from everybody, it was just remarkable. And that race will always be special to me because at that time, people don't know, like 2-3 weeks before, I had just gotten a big fight with a hurdle. Like basically, I felt at practice, so I was just like, all right, this is not the way practice is supposed to be going before Worlds. Yeah. But it worked out well, so it's strictly business for that one.
Hess, I don't know about you, man, but the thing that I miss the most is running a deep route and watching the spiral coming towards you when you know you're about to catch it, man. It's not a prettier thing in the world to see. Hester, is there a vision from playing that you miss the most?
Oh, a backside cut on a zone run.
Yeah.
Like when I'm opening up and I'm looking for, but out of the corner of my eye, I know that there's going to be a backside cut, and it's a feel, like you can feel it and see it, right? And you have to stay disciplined enough to continue to stay square long enough to continue to manipulate the defense where they continue to over pursue. And then you just put your foot in the ground and you hit it, and you feel like you're shot out of a cannon.
Great. So while you're running the race, man, is there a vision that you enjoy the most?
Oh man, of course, getting to that finish line before everybody else. You can see my eyes; they start getting real big and blurry.
I saw Parchment looking over at you in that race, like he's trying to.
He thought he was going to close. He always does that though. Like before this, so we ran a double round that day. We ran semi and final that day. So in the semi, he was running through the line, looking at to make sure he's gonna make it through. But there's no better feeling for me, is when you hear that gun goes off.
Yeah.
And you can just feel yourself accelerating. You're like, holy shit, I'm pushing it. Like I can feel my speed, I can feel my surges. I think that, and then going to the finish line, and you can already hear the crowd yelling because they looking at that time, and they're like, oh, like those experiences are better than none, man.
How many miles an hour is that? Like, what's the fastest you've ever been miles per hour clocked? You know?
I don't know why 22 popped up in my head.
I was gonna say in football, Hess, when they have the tracking on them, I think you get up to 21, 22 is pretty fast. You're probably faster than 20.
Yeah. I'm giving myself Tyreek Hill or Devon A-Chain is 20. A-Chain is 21 or 22. I give myself 23.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Last thing, man. You and I spoke probably a month or so ago. You asked me about participating in your charity event, and you recently just had that, man. Tell everybody about what you did, what you guys were able to raise, where that money goes.
So right after World Championships, I basically said I want to do a golf tournament, and everybody was like, well, it's kind of close to what you want to do. I don't know how much money you're going to make. Everybody's just being the realist in there. And I was just like, look, I got my mind to it. I'm gonna raise $8,000 over my dead body. I'll figure out
Yeah.
$8,000. So calling family, calling friends, got title sponsors, doing this, doing that. We get to the tournament at the time. We've raised $15,000, and the last week I'm like, you know what? I feel like I can get more.
Mm.
So I went around. I'm talking to different companies, sending emails out. I was able to almost raise $30,000, dog. So all the proceeds and all the money that I was able to raise is going to go towards feeding, less fortunate families during this holiday season. So if that's for Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, whatever we got to do. So I'm gonna start partnering with a couple of food banks, couple people, and really just figure out how many meals, But like that's the thing. Like once you put your mind towards something, you can do whatever you want. Like it might not
Yeah.
have happened right away, but if you keep, working at it, and it's the same thing. I called Chris. And I'm like, look, I'm just trying to raise money. It's not for me. It's not for anybody to really take and pocket it. Is we're gonna just make a big old change here in Gainesville, and I was able just to be a little bit of the change. Now, obviously, there's a lot more that we can probably do around Gainesville, but it just starts with a little bit of here, a little bit there, and then obviously everybody's gonna hop on that coattail, and everybody has the same goal, and it'll work itself out. But just to raise that money and to have the support, and the event turned out really well. We had about 25, 26 teams out there, a 4-person scramble. Winner got to take home a $6 plaque, and everybody got to have food and booze. It's just it was a great time. But I can't wait for next year. I'm already thinking about when I want to do it. I just got to make sure the Gators are off on the weekend. I have reached out to Coach Napier to come out. I reached out to Tim Walton to come out. Wished out to Sully to come out. All these big wigs and big people here in the Gainesville area just to come out and have some fun.
Man, that is awesome. He is someone who's so athletic. His coach called him Flamingo. Coach Saban used to call me Stubby Legs, and we know why that happened. And we can see the two running styles and probably figure out those nicknames there. Hey, man, Grant, this has been a lot of fun. We appreciate your time, man.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, brothers. I cannot wait to get back on. You guys just let me know.
That sounds good.
You guys doing a good deal.
Thank you, man. Good luck here in the upcoming season, man. We'll be watching.
Hey, I appreciate you guys. All the best, guys. Cheers.
All right, we want to thank, one, CD for setting this up, but also, again, former Florida Gator, USA track star, going for gold in the upcoming Olympics. Mr. Grant Holloway was good enough to join us here. And like I said, definitely the fastest guest we've ever had on the podcast. Also like jumping over hurdles. So athletic and fast.
You ever hurdle?
Either one I could do.
You ever competed
CD. You've seen the way I'm built,
true.
right?
That's
Low
true.
man wins. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll say that for myself, but also, do you think I've hurdled before?
No, I don't think you have. That was a bad
What about
question
you?
for me.
PK Young?
I never competed in track and field. I was always football, baseball, basketball, but I have a lot of respect, as I said earlier when we talked to Grant, for those that can go out there and push through the mental grind that it takes to be a track athlete.
400 did run the 400 in high school. Yeah, that's about as far as these little stubby legs could take me.
That's the worst event there is, because I think it's like the longest true all-out sprint that you got to go through, and it just
every time you run
afterwards.
it's different every time, and you try to make it consistent. It's incredibly hard. That's why it's like world class athletes have to be really good at the 400, in my opinion, because if you're just like a good athlete and not world class, you're going to run that race different every single time you run it. And now I'm having PTSD of having to run the 400 and practice for it. So let's move on to the pre-gaming portion of, you guessed it, pre-gaming the SEC. Hey, just a quick note on this game. It's LSU hosting Army. We're not going to spend a ton of time on it, but I love this for LSU. I love the fact that they're not playing directional school U here in this week. They aren't going to play a team that really would create no momentum, no juice. This one has it. I'm here in Baton Rouge. I was just over in Tiger Stadium. They painted the end zones camouflage in honor of Army. There's already a ton of Army cadets that were on campus, walking around, touring the stadium. I'm getting chills just thinking about it. And going to Army Navy last year, I think I have an even more of a high level of respect for this game. If you play a game like this, I love the fact that it's Army, in a service academy, because it gives some life to a game that otherwise it wouldn't have, because Army is special. Army being here makes it special, and I think it's pretty cool.
Does Army still run the triple option?
So they run the like Jamie Chadwell type of option.
Okay.
I mean, he's at Liberty now, but when he was at Coastal Carolina, you remember like there's still option principles to the offense, but with the rule changes as far as cut blocking, they can't really run the triple option like they once did. And so they're actually throwing for like 180 yards a game. So like for them in their terms, that's like 400 for somebody else.
They're still running the football as the primary means of their operation. So are you at all worried about what this presents? Because I never liked stepping out of conference. Once you start playing SEC games, it was always weird to go play. Back in the day, we used to play homecoming games against non-conference, kind of mid-major type programs, and it never was fun to really go play those games. Are you worried at all about them having to step out of conference now at this point in the season and play against an offense that has a little gimmicky aspect kind of to it?
No, normally I would be. Normally I would agree wholeheartedly with you, but I think because it's Army, I still think you have a focus for your team. I think it's a heightened focus because of who you're playing. Also, it's been a football team that's been really good. Yeah. And now their record 2-4, but they played Syracuse tight. They played Boston College tight. They beat UTSA. So I think they get your attention. So it's the best case scenario for what you're talking about, because we've all been there. We've all played the schools that it's like, yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm fired up. Yeah, I'm doing all the things that I'm normally going to do for an SEC opponent, and you're not. So I completely agree with you, but I think this is a unique opponent that kind of gives you a little bit of the other way.
Anxious to see how that game plays out, but some big ones in the you want to start with the big one, or you want to end on the big one?
We're going to end on the big one. We're going to start a little slow out of the blocks, because this game, Mississippi State at 3-3, Arkansas at 2-5. It's an 11 a.m. local time kick. Arkansas is a 6.5-point favorite. This one feels pressure packed for both head coaches. It does to me. Arkansas's had a brutal stretch. We laid it out. Credit to them for fighting their ass off last week in Tuscaloosa and making that every bit of a 4-quarter football game and having a chance in that game. And I wonder, okay, after that, was that emptying the tank? Was that literally everything you had? Or does getting back home against an opponent in which you're a favorite, does that help you out here? And again, like Sam Pittman, we love him here. He needs this win. And Zach Arnett does too. I know this is Zach Arnett's first year. Mississippi State has kind of built a standard of better football than they've played so far this year.
Yeah, it's been disappointing, because I think, you and I both felt like the media picking Mississippi State to finish last in the West was a little disrespectful given all they returned.
Yeah.
I haven't heard the status update on Woody Marks or Will Rogers yet, but hopefully those guys are able to go. And on Arkansas side, they've been dealing with 5 straight losses, and even though they played hard against Alabama, at the end of the day, it's still a losing effort. KJ Jefferson was fantastic in that game, and just the physical specimen he was when Terrion Arnold tried to take him down. That's one of my lasting memories of how the Arkansas Razorbacks kind of played that day.
Coach Sabins too.
Yeah, that was great, wasn't it? But I who you lean here in this one, because it's kind of hard to handicap. I think if I had to pick, I'd probably lean Arkansas, but really not one that you feel confident about either way.
I would not feel great laying the points here. 6.5 is a pretty big number. I like Arkansas maybe to win the game, but not by a touchdown. This feels like it's going to be kind of a good, mean, nasty, tough type game, but also kind of 3 yards in a cloud of dust type of game. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I like the number at 48.5. Like, I don't even love that over under right now. So this is one that I can see one a little bit clunkiness to it, but I think Arkansas probably finds a way. They're still fighting. And that's why, again, I want to go back to see if they've got anything left after the fight they showed last week in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. What's next?
All right, let's go this one. Let's go Mizzou and South Carolina. Mizzou 6-1, South Carolina 2-4. Missouri's a 7.5-point favorite in this one. Over under set at 60.5. Big number there. This is a game that is a must win for Mizzou, because if you want to start being in that conversation of teams that have a real championship aspiration, real championship opportunity, you can't lose games like this. And that's the obvious statement, but I'm talking about the 2-4 portion of it. You need to go win games like this because we're putting you right now in a different category.
Mm-hmm.
We are putting you in a category with Tennessee. We're putting you in a category with LSU. We're putting you in a category with Ole Miss of teams that are trying to make that last step. You're right there, right? You can see the champ. He's in striking distance. Can you go hurt the champ? Can you go get there and get to Atlanta? I'm putting you firmly in that category. And these are the type of games. Not only do you need to go win, you need to show your dominance. You need to go flex your muscles a little bit in this one. So I'm going to be paying close attention to this one. Look, it's a 2:30 kick. It's a great TV window. A lot of eyeballs going to be on this game, and I hope a lot of people get a chance to see just how good this Missouri football team is if you haven't watched them already.
Really impressed with what they've done offensively. Brady Cook is having a tremendous year. He's got a ton of weapons at his disposal. I think maybe one of the highlights for me this year has been watching Kirby Moore, the younger brother of Kellen Moore, who has been a great addition as the play caller, offensive coordinator for that team. What he's done in his a level of aggressiveness and timeliness for calling some big ball plays. It's been a lot of fun to kind of watch that offense. And Brady Cook is a perfect fit for that trigger man role.
I mean, just think about fans were booing him at the beginning of the season. You remember that when Eli Drinkwitz came to the podium?
I don't know if that was real. I know he addressed it. I never heard the actual boo, so you never know. Maybe that was trying to create a little edge or chip on his shoulder. But I've talked to people that were there that day that said, I don't know if I really actually heard any boos, but he's turned it into a big deal, and it's been a motivating factor for sure.
Whatever he did, it worked. Yeah. So whatever you got to do, Drink, just go to the podium and do it because whatever happened there, it has worked out for the Missouri Tigers, and they are one of the teams, man, that I'm just fascinated by. I love when a team gets in that point, and we've talked about it kind of with Kentucky because they've been in this situation before where they're trying to prove to a lot of people just how good they are, and now they have opportunities to do that, not just to us here in the SEC, but really to the entire country. And again, you got to win a game like this if you want to get to that point. All right, as we continue to pregame the SEC, I love this one. I love this game because I am expecting chaotic energy around it. It is Ole Miss at 5-1 traveling to take on the 3-3 Auburn Tigers. Ole Miss a 6.5-point favorite in this one. Over under set at 54.5. It is going to be right there, smack dab prime time on ESPN, and Jordan Hare is going to be electric. They don't care. They don't care that LSU just beat Auburn 48-18. Those fans are going to show up. That building is going to be special, and Ole Miss has to be careful here. This is one where Ole Miss, if they want to get into that category like we're talking about with Mizzou, right? If they want to continue to have a chance at Atlanta, maybe be a different type of program under Lane Kiffin, this is a game you've got to go win.
It's a legitimizing game. I felt like going on the road last week to Kentucky was a legitimizing game for Missouri. This is the same thing, and you mentioned the comparison between the Tigers and the Rebels. Last year they were rolling, right? Top 10 team, and then fell off the cliff with the rumors of Lane Kiffin heading to Auburn to take over.
Was it 7-0 and finished what, 8-5?
Something like that. I don't remember exactly.
I think it was 7-0 CD. And they finished 8-5.
But this is a team that is better than Auburn in a lot of aspects. They should be able to go win this game. But going into that environment, we know what it did to kind of even the playing field between Auburn and Georgia a couple weeks ago. We know, I don't know if you saw the history of this. Ole Miss has not beaten Auburn in back-to-back years in like 71 years. So history would tell you it's not likely to happen. I think this is a huge pitfall waiting to see how sloppy Ole Miss is going to be. We don't know the status of Jackson Dart. We don't know the status of Trey Harris. Both of those guys were banged up pretty bad before the bye week in that last outing against Arkansas. If they're not at 100%, if they're not focused, this team could fall into that pitfall. And I'm just curious. You know how teams are that are, have their backs against the wall like Auburn does. When they go on a bye week, do they come up with some wrinkle? Do they come up with something brand new? I think offensively they need to go to Robbie Ashford and see what they can do to just run the ball as much as possible.
I agree.
And see if they can't, find an advantage that way.
I agree with you. Robbie Ashford was more effective against LSU last week.
Yeah.
I mean, he at least extended plays. Now, it wasn't a pretty play. It wasn't, 2x2. Let me hit my back foot. When I hit my back foot, I'm reading the coverage, the ball's out. It wasn't that. It was kind of run around, roll to your right, buy time, find a guy in the end zone.
Yeah.
But they found a guy in the end zone.
It worked at the end of last year. Think about when Caddy had those guys playing their best against Texas A&M at the end of the season.
Yeah.
You created a little bit of an identity of who you wanted to be as a run-first offense. This team has already run the ball way better than they've thrown it. They're very limited in terms of offensive explosiveness. So why not come do something completely different that they haven't seen a lot of on tape up until this point?
Yeah, I agree with you as well. Again, there's a reason why this is only a touchdown spread. In Ole Miss, you would think they'd be favored by more, but reading, in between the lines of this game, I'm expecting a full 4-quarter game right down to the wire. Even though, like, the matchup, it's similar to what we had last week with Auburn and LSU, because Ole Miss and LSU's offenses and what they can do and some of the things that their defense has not done. But this one just feels different because I think, one, it's in Jordan Hare, and two, just the dominance in this series that Auburn's had.
Beware, Ole Miss. Beware.
Yeah.
Don't think you're going to walk in and get out of there with an easy dub.
Yeah, I feel you in that one. I'm right there with you. All right, let's get to the biggest game of the week in the SEC. It is number 17 Tennessee at 5-1, traveling to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, to take on the 11th ranked Crimson Tide. This is a 8.5 point as we sit here and record this. It's gone down to 8.5 point spread in favor of Alabama. Over and under set at 48.5. I mean, both teams would have gone over the over a year ago in this matchup. A completely different matchup, or we're expecting at least, as far as scheme, point totals, quarterback play that we saw last year in Knoxville, Tennessee. And speaking of streaks, this is a series that I was surprised when I heard this. Tennessee has not had back-to-back victories over Alabama since 02-03.
Yeah.
Like, I realized they had a long streak, but I'm like, man, Philip Fulmer had Tennessee in the SEC championship game in 07. Like, they didn't between then. No, I mean, it has been, I wasn't in college football yet, CD, the last time that Tennessee has beaten Alabama in back-to-back years.
Yeah. It's hard to believe it's been dominated so significantly.
2 decades.
Yeah, it definitely have. But what a difference a year makes, for both fan bases. For Tennessee coming off that win last year in Knoxville, you feel like maybe you can play on a little bit more even playing field than what you had been previously. For Alabama, revenge on the mind of the Alabama Crimson Tide fans, the motivating factor of not playing for a full 4 quarters against Arkansas last week. I think, Alabama is going to have both eyes on Tennessee for the entirety of the game. I think that wake-up call could be one of the worst things that happens for the Vols. I expect Alabama to play really well in Tuscaloosa.
I don't have a feel in this game yet. And I'm like, wait a minute. We're kind of close to game time. I just don't have a feel. Like, the thing that we just read out about Tennessee's defensive front, that's what I'm kind of hesitant. I'm like, okay, Milroe does a good job of escaping the rush. And I think that's why he's the best option for Alabama. I mean, remember when Ty Simpson went in against South Florida? I mean, he was basically just a target practice for South Florida's defensive line, right? They got after him a little bit. I think Milroe, with how he can move around, is the best option without question for this Alabama team. Like, can he do enough? Like, how much can Tennessee get after him? Can they get him on the ground? So that's storyline number 1 for me. And then, can Tennessee run the football on this Alabama front is story number 2 in the game.
Yeah, I don't know that Tennessee's going to be able to do that. I said the same thing last week as they were going up against Texas A&M, and they proved me wrong there. But I
are you off Texas A&M?
I'm off Texas A&M.
Okay,
yeah.
all right. Look, they're on a bye week. We're not going to talk Aggies. It's been 2 weeks in a row that they have not done right by Christopher Paul Doring.
No, they haven't. They made me look stupid, in fact. So, I'm not going back to that well anymore. But I will go back to what I believe in, and that's Alabama's front 7. That's Alabama's defense as a whole. I do think it's going to be a tough matchup for Alabama's offense, both in terms of their ability to run the football against the Tennessee improved front 7, and the ability to block. They have not done a very good job of pass protecting, and with the way that Tennessee penetrated last week against A&M, it's going to be a tough matchup. I think it is going to be a low-scoring ball game. I think it's going to be another physical game.
Yeah.
I wonder how much playing back-to-back really physical games for Tennessee matters at the end of the day. But, I think this is one that I'm I'm ready to go all in on Alabama in this one. I think Alabama ends up winning a double-digit win for some reason. I thought about that this morning. I told Alyssa, I was sitting in the bathtub and it hit me that Alabama's going to beat Tennessee down. And I guess the feeling,
as one often thinks in the bathtub.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and it just struck me how Florida was able to really out physical Tennessee in that September game in the Swamp. Home field advantage matters this year, more so than I remember in the last couple seasons here in the conference. So I think I'm going with the Tide at home in T-Town.
That's very fair. I mean, it's a great point. Tennessee's a different team at home, just like Auburn's a different team at home. And now every team you can kind of make that case, but some way more than others. And I think Tennessee and Auburn might actually be the two best examples we have here in the SEC. And if you're wondering, wait a minute, that's it? Yeah, pregaming the SEC is done pregaming because Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, A&M, and Vandy all on bye weeks.
Yep, five games teams in the SEC this week. That it's an interesting part of the schedule when we start having conference games and buys going on and not nearly being overloaded with the 14 games that we have in weeks 1 and week 2.
All right. Before we get out of here today, let us be front runners. How are we going to be front runners? Well, when we have Take It to the Bank and our best bets, sometimes when we don't have the best weeks, we just kind of like mention it on the way out. We're going to say it with our chest out this week because we went a combined 5-1, and we are starting to hit our stride.
You were 3-0. I was 2-1. So you did that really heavy lifting. Where I got myself into trouble, I went on the opposite of one of your bets there, and took the only loss for the duo here.
It's okay. Hey, 5 out of 6 will win you a lot of money.
No doubt.
If you stay on that path. Now, with that being said, it's going to be a very interesting slate. I think when we turn our best bets in tomorrow, we could be going against each other in some of these games. It feels like we could. It feels like we're going to be going against each other because there's only a few games, and kind of some of these spreads, they are very stinky. I mean, they are just terribly stinky, right? Like the Ole Miss is stinky. The Tennessee is stinky. I think the Arkansas Mississippi State one is very interesting. LSU is a 31.5 point favorite, so I'm not sure that either one of us would probably play one side of that or the other, not really knowing how they're going to kind of, handle that game as far as personnel and different things. And so that one maybe not even touching, but some very interesting stinky type lines this week.
Yep, no doubt, man. Beware. This is the time of season.
It is.
Vegas gets you with some of these stinky lines that you're referring to.
Yes, it's just like, no, for sure, right? No, like for sure. No, there's a reason why there's so many of those big buildings in Vegas. And again, we'll have those best bets out on Friday, probably Saturday morning. Probably Saturday morning. And that's going to do it for week 8 of Pregaming the SEC. Cannot wait to watch this weekend's games. And then next week, we know what it is. It is, and I thought it was supposed to be Georgia, Florida, because the winner gets headliner there. But you tell me Florida, Georgia.
You're on the show with me. First and foremost, Florida, obviously close to my heart, but F comes before G. So it's always going to be the Florida Georgia game in my book.
Yeah, we got that one coming up next week. So you can expect us to be very spirited when we talk about that matchup. We will see you next week for week 9 of Pregaming the SEC. Same time, same place here, YouTube. If you want to hit us up on social media, Instagram and Twitter at Pregaming the SEC on YouTube, just search us, like, subscribe, the whole deal. And we appreciate you listening on SiriusXM SEC Radio, channel 374. We'll see you next week.